Hey travelers, Mag here, and I'm joined by Sanferic and MsPatt, who you may remember from previous adventures with us around the United States. And this is the official beginning of our Alaska adventure. Over the next several videos, we will be exploring Alaska. We're beginning the adventure here in Ketchikan. And as you can see, there's nothing out here where we are. And that's okay, because that is one of the great things about the last frontier. For this video, we're gonna be making our way from the airport side of the river, where there's only a few geocaches at a dead-end road, and crossing into the main town of Ketchikan. We'll get a good look at what that looks like for us, and we'll bring this thing to an end with, hopefully, the big city. Either way, I'm super excited to get out there and show you guys Alaska. So come on, let's check it out.
Come on!
The Ketchikan International Airport is located on Gravina Island, only about a mile from downtown Ketchikan, but the only way to get there is to leave this tiny airport and catch a ferry across the river. With everyone unloading at the same time, we find we have quite a wait to cross the Tongass Narrows into Ketchikan.
The airport here in Ketchikan is actually located across the river from the city. So right off the bat, we get off the airplane and we have to wait in a line for our turn to get on the ferry and cross. We are waiting with a bated sense of anticipation, knowing that just across that water, our geocaching adventure here in Alaska begins in earnest.
It doesn't take too much waiting though before we decide to go out and explore Gravina Island and let the line die down. There are a few geocaches circling the perimeter of the island, so why not get out there and explore right here.
This is it, our first geocache find here in Alaska. And while it looks like it might be a guardrail, no, it's not a guardrail. We're definitely going over this thing and probably under. But we're all excited because out of the three of us, two of us have never signed a logbook in Alaska before, which means we're gonna put a new state on the map.
That looks like a geocache! Yeah!
MsPatt is about to make this official. When that ink touches the logbook, it is official. Geocaching in Alaska has begun!
MsPatt and I have geocached together, and Sanferic and I have geocached together, but the three of us have never geocached as a team before, so we have to feel each other out as we get started.
We are steadily making our way down the road with Sanferic as our driver, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out why this road actually exists. It doesn't go anywhere, and we haven't seen another car on it, but it's got geocaches on it. That's good enough for this guy.
Gravina Island, part of the Alexander Archipelago, is 21 miles long with a width of about 10 miles. With only 7 geocaches spread across its 21-mile length, that gives us quite a bit of ground to cover to track these things down. We begin near the airport on the south end.
Even when the geocache is only 50 feet off the road, it turns into an immediate terrain challenge. So anything that's not exactly on the edge of the road, which pretty much nothing in here is, means that you're going to have to do a little bit of work and negotiate. And rule number 1 on any geocaching adventure we go on is don't get hurt. And we are all going to follow that to a T. Nicely done.
Having come out of Hawaii, Texas, and Florida respectively, we're all a little awed by the terrain out here. The Alaska landscape is far different than any of the places we just came from.
And as suspected, this road went absolutely nowhere. Well, I mean, except for the geocaches. Good job, Sanferic. You led us to a dead end. Now what are we going to do?
Turn around and go home.
I like the first part, not so much on the second part.
The three of us are quickly establishing a solid team dynamic. We discuss it and agree we're going to head to the far end of Gravina Island to track down the remaining geocaches here before we even bother crossing on the ferry. Our next target leads us to the old sawmill, titled Seen Better Days, which seems about right. Not only is this place still operating, however, but the worker even came over to help us.
So my suspicion was that this was our ground zero, because clearly has been sitting here for a while, and more importantly, is clearly not going anywhere as it's lacking a key component that most vehicles need for the go. However, this is not our ground zero, but it still makes a pretty interesting ground zero to search around on, with kind of a lot of stuff to go through here. And one of these objects you just saw is hiding a pretty good geocache.
Despite the fact that there are only a grand total of about 50 people that live on this island, the roads are still really well maintained. Their condition lends us the confidence we need to keep going all the way north.
Look at this craziness. We're driving this little narrow dirt road filled with potholes, up and down, sharp drops off to either side of this thing. Now look at what the GPS is telling us. Go ahead, 55 miles an hour it says. That's the recommended speed for this road. Sanferic, are we about to go 55 miles an hour down this road?
We put it to a vote. The car said no.
car said no. And if we said yes, this would definitely be our last video.
We stick to the car's recommended speed, not the GPS's recommended speed, slowly crawling our way toward the other side of the island. Although there's still no evidence that this road actually goes somewhere, at least now we can see the reason for its existence. This thing is here to enable the loggers to get to and fro.
We drove 20 minutes, about 8 miles, to come find the lonely micro in the woods that had sat unfound for 3 years before the FTF. And we were impressed by the road, but unimpressed with the idea of finding a micro in the woods, right up until we realized we're coming right here to Micro Creek. It turns out it's appropriately named after all.
Admittedly, the view out on this side of the island also made it quite a worthwhile endeavor too.
This micro was much tougher than any of us gave it credit for. How long would you say we were here?
I can't admit. 10
Nobody's
minutes.
going to admit to it. But we did end up finding what we were looking for, a micro cache. Look at that. The geocaching logo tells us we finally did it. And no, we won't talk about how long it took.
After having spent our first couple of hours on Ketchikan tracking down all of the active geocaches on Gravina Island, we returned to the airport to discover there's no cars waiting in line to board the ferry. We slide right on and are moving on our way to the other side of the Narrows in just a matter of minutes. A mere 7 minutes after boarding, we're rolling right back off and are heading officially on our way into Ketchikan. Now that we find ourselves approaching civilization, we all agree that after a couple hours spent exploring and all day traveling to get here, we're kind of peckish. We put our anticipated tour of the city on hold, instead heading up to the top of Cape Fox Hill to find the Eagle's Nest. Somewhere up here, there's supposed to be a pretty killer pizza place.
We had dinner right here at the Eagle's Nest. We came because they have some pretty unique pizzas and because they're supposed to have this awesome view out over the terrace, which they do. This has been the hardest thing we've had to find so far on this trip to Ketchikan. Not any of those geocaches, no. Finding the Eagle's Nest is quite the endeavor. You see we're walking down what's basically a back alley, and that one sign right there, from the parking lot area, you can see this way, but you can't see what's this way. And it looks like it should be in that main building, but there's no connection point. Now we can see we're walking past generators and power things. None of this looks like it's gonna lead to a business. And then all of a sudden, here we are, back here behind the building. Pretty amazing spot though, well worth a bite to eat, if you can find it.
This spot only opened up a couple of years ago and has been a big hit in the community. People love coming here to grab one of the New York style thin crust pizzas straight out of the brick oven. It barely even felt like we had to wait for our food, because in addition to the awesome ambience, it really lives up to its name as the Eagle's Nest, offering a fantastic view out over Ketchikan. This alone makes it worth coming up here to grab a bite to eat. Not to mention that the pizzas, I will confirm, are pretty darn good. Afterward, we need to work it off, so rather than hopping in the car, we decide to take the Married Men's Trail down into the city. The history behind that name is pretty fun, but I won't spoil it, so maybe look that one up.
Some climbing involved with this next step. That's a lot of stairs. And while that looks fun to climb down, we're gonna be coming back up this soon enough.
In more recent history, this trail has taken on the name of Salmon Walk, because hopefully the married men aren't using it like they used to, and the salmon run up the creek between July and October of every year. We are visiting just slightly too early to observe the salmon doing their thing, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the view out over the creek all the same. Following the salmon walk all the way down the hillside will drop you into Creek Street, Ketchikan's original red light district. The origins behind this historic district hint at the original meaning of the name of the Married Man's Trail. In 1903, a city ordinance forbid brothels from being set up in Ketchikan City, only allowing them in the Indian town on the east side of the creek. This little town on the boardwalk sprang up as a direct result and ran between 1903 and 1954. It used to be far less accessible back then by very intentional design, but is since connected to the city by an easy pathway. This is a major port for tourists to get off their cruise ship and come explore the town, but we happen to be here late enough that they've all loaded up and we have it pretty much to ourselves this evening. None of us are particularly interested in swimming through large crowds, so we're very grateful that they've all loaded up and left, and that the sun's going to continue to shine on us.
And that's it. This begins our adventure touring our way through Alaska. And what better place to start it than right here in Ketchikan, Alaska's first city. For this adventure, we landed at the airport and explored the very, very lonely logging roads back there. And then we brought you into Ketchikan, where you can see this city for yourself. Quite a lot of amazing sights. That's going to be it for this, but we have one more adventure coming up here in town before we head on upriver to our next area. Until then, make sure to like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.